Hello, hello. So this is going to be an as quick as I can make it tutorial on setting up bendyLimbs. This just adds a little bit more flexibility to cartoon rigs by giving you a tangent to work with in the middle of your bones. So let's get in. I've already done a little bit. I just imported 2 ribbon modules right here. Normally they should be in my notes. And first thing you'll notice is I took one and I set up the end to the other end of the joints, basically. And I separated it into a couple of groups. The parts NGO go into a parts group, whilst the joint group gets an aim group on top. This is for the constraints with the elbow. I'll edit it in a little bit because there's something that you need to do with it, but normally it should be pretty self-explanatory. So, let's start actually. For the up arm, we're going to start with selecting the joints group. The one that's meant for the up arm on this side of the screen, basically. If you're looking at your model, you got the right arm, left arm. The one that has the joints facing where the arm starts is the one that's going to be on the top. So I'm going to select my joint group right here for this one. I'm going to go select the upper arm right here, and we're going to go modify match all. So, first thing you'll notice is it's still very short, but it's facing, basically the geometry is facing us. So that's good. Now, there's a little thing we need to do, and it's quickly just unparent this, because we need the aim group to have the same pivot as the joint group. So we're going to grab the aim group, the joint group, modify, match all. So now it has the same pivot. We can reparent these. And that's about that. So now we're gonna grab, actually, we're gonna start with making a controller right here. I'm using a little tool. It just makes things a little bit easier, but you can just create like a curved circle and put it on, and it's going to do pretty much the same thing. So just do a little square like that. Anything works. I just like to have fun shapes. And yeah. So this isn't the forearm controller. You already have a forearm controller with the F key. So I'm going to rename this to elbow. And you'll notice it has an SRT buffer on top. If you've never done rigging, this might be a little bit odd to you, but basically it just makes sure that all of this here stays on 0. And all of this here is basically the trash that you don't want on it. It's very useful. I recommend doing it for literally every controller, and it's going to come in handy. So don't you worry. So we're going to start with grabbing the end joint right here. And then this controller right here. And we're going to go modify match all. So the ribbon is going to stretch fully to go and meet this controller right here. Next up is a couple of constraints on the elbow right here. So this is just so that it follows the joints, basically. So forearm, elbow, SRT buffer, constraint, parent. So it should be on here. There you go. So now it follows. Very nice, but you'll notice that this guy doesn't. That's fine, nothing is set up yet. So we're going to select this middle driver right here, and we're just going to create a locator. Once again, I have a button, but it's as easy as just creating a locator in the middle and then doing a match transform all onto it. And we're going to move this in one axis in front of it. Quickly rename this. This is going to be L up, oops, up arm, up like that. And we're going to go ahead and just copy the name. We're going to open the aim constraint menu right here and just paste this name right here, with it set up as object rotation up with the maintain offset on. These are all of the default settings. Normally it shouldn't bug too much, so I wouldn't worry. So we're going to select the elbow controller right here, and then the end group, and with the name right here, hit apply. So the constraint is going to go onto the end group. Now, if we move this controller right here, you can see that it follows it. Still though, nothing is set up, so if we end up moving this controller, well, this follows, but if we move this controller right here, it's not going to. It's an easy fix, and we're getting to it right now. So you're going to open this joint group, and you're going to select joint 1 right here. So this is the one that's on the shoulder. And it has, you'll notice that it has basically groups on top of it. These groups are going to be parented. It just makes it a little easier for us. So we're going to select this on this joint and open the constraint. Close this. Open the constraints right here, like this. Just all the default settings. Whoops. We select the base joints, then the group of the driver joint. Hit apply. There you go. So now, when we move that controller, the ribbon is following. However, you will notice that it's not scaling to that. That's just because it's aiming towards it. There's nothing that's telling it that it should do more than that. So we're going to do pretty much the same thing that we just did and select the elbow controller. Then select the group of the first and hit apply. Now, because I have scale set up, it's going to actually follow it and scale with it. If you want to do a stretchy rig, this is actually a pretty easy method of doing it. So that's pretty much it for the top. And if you notice, currently I'm in I key. Everything's following, twisting right. So that's 10 out of 10. So I'm missing an orient constraint. Select the top joint, bottom joint, finally controller, and with the maintain offset on, hit apply. This is just going to keep the rotations in mind. Very good. Very good. So now it's time for the lower. So we have this other chain right here. And it's going to be kind of the same. There's a couple of little nuances, but you'll figure it out quickly enough. So, low arm. You will notice the joint group to this one is at the end. This is going to be onto your hand joint, basically. So we're going to select the joint group, select the hand joint, modify, and then we're going to do a match all. This girl has a little bracelet. Okay, so now that it's here, there's a couple of things we need to edit on it. Basically give it a 90-degree rotation. There's a little bit of movement on my hand, but it shouldn't bother me too much. So we're going to give it a 90-degree rotation right here, because there's already a 90 on the hand joint normally. This is for your axis. Basically, if you don't have this by default, just keep in mind that these two need to be facing the same way. So, now that that's done, we're going to select the end joint, and then this joint, not this joint, but this guy, this controller right here. Modify, metal. So it's going to go and snap to it, basically stretching. Next, we're going to make an up vector. So select this middle joint right here. I'm going to use my button again, but you know the drill. Move it in one axis, and we're going to rename it. low arm abductor right here. And we're going to open our aim constraint. There you go. So remember, scope.name and put in your new one. Object rotation up, maintain offset. Fantastic. And now we're going to select the controller. Actually. Unparent the joint group real quick, and select this, then select your joint group, modify, match or transform. This makes your aim group have the same rotation as your joint group. After this, you can reparent them with a P. Perfect. So now we're actually ready to do this. Select the elbow, and select the aim group, apply, the constraint going here. And now, when we move this, your ribbon is going to look at the controller right there. Select the pole vector. I always forget to do this, but basically just select the pole vector, select the joint. Oh no, select the joint, select the... Oh my god. Select the joint, select the pole vector, constraint, parent. You should have a constraint right here. This just makes it follow the driver joints. Same thing here, select the joint, pole vector, constraint, parent. There you go. You can put these in your parts group. So, I had to take a little break. So to make this basically do the same thing, for it to follow, you need to select the elbow controller, the ribbon group, basically the driver joins that right here, constraint, parent. So now, it's going to follow it. We need to do the same thing with the end right here. Normally for your hand joints, you're going to have a locator. This just makes it so that all of the hand joints are in one place, a little bit less of a hassle. And we're going to put it onto this guy. So, grab your driver, grab your locator, first of all, then grab the group of this driver joint here, constraint, and parent. Now, you will see that everything scales nicely. I already had a stretchy eye key set up on this arm, so don't take me as a reference, yours might look a little different, but you can just make a joint chain for this and skin onto all of these joints, and you should have a pretty good looking setup. So now, we test. So we have the shoulder joint, that looks fine. We have the pole vector, looks fine. All of this right here looks good. And if we switch, this is my switch for everything, my I key, my F key. Take my left arm, and I switch. You can see that everything is still going to be there. For these joints right here, it's as easy as just creating a controller and giving it a parent. And yeah, after that you can use these joints to move it, you can scale, make it look different. That's pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed.